First, the Royal Oak makes up 60% of Audemars Piguet's market share on Chrono 24, but they're not the only one-trick pony out there. Stay tuned to find out which brands rely too heavily on one popular model. Next, we analyzed over 1 million watch collections to see which watch brands people work up to and which brands they leave behind. The line between entry level and expert level is not as clear as you may think. Finally, spoiler alert, we're still processing the end of Succession, and we've created the internet's only Succession watch superlatives with awards for all the best and worst watches in the show. This is Time is Money, where the clock is always ticking and money is always moving. I'm Thomas Hendricks of Chrono 24 in New York City. Let's dive into our top story. At the top of the report today, we're looking at watch brands that can be considered one-trick ponies. These are brands with one popular model line, and that's it. So if you want to buy a watch that will sell quickly in the future, pay attention. Or if you'd rather have a watch that's not the most popular choice, pay attention. We're starting with Audemars Piguet because they're the first brand that comes to mind on this topic. Although, not to ruin it, there are a couple other brands in almost identical positions. We're looking at Chrono 24 sales volume to calculate this. That's total cash coming in for a particular model line in a given year. So, for example, these are people paying market rates for an AP Royal Oak, but they don't have to buy a code 1159 to move up the wait list. With that in mind, let's dive into AP. We see 60% of AP sales volume on the platform going to the Royal Oak model line. That includes your classic jumbos, your dual times, your chronographs, etc. This does not include the Royal Oak offshore family, which pulls in 30% of total AP sales. So already we're seeing 90% of AP's market share on the platform going to watches with octagonal bezels. The code 1159, the watch model line that was positioned to be the next big thing for AP, comes in third with only 5% of sales volume for the brand on Chrono 24. And the remaining 5% is divided up among the Millenaries, the Jules Audemars collection, and other watches that nobody really pays attention to. Hot tip though, there are a lot of sleeper hit APs out there if you're willing to dig a little bit. We see the opposite spread with Rolex. The Crown is the best-selling luxury watch brand in the world in both primary market sales and secondary and gray market sales. So who are the star players on the winning team? In the top 5, we have the Datejust with 26%, the Submariner with 14%, the Daytona with 13%, the GMT Master 2 with 10%, and the Day-Date with 6%. To Rolex's credit, they've done well at developing something for everyone and pushing a compelling storyline for each model. Any guesses on what the least popular Rolex is in terms of market share? It's the vintage, or rather antique, Rolex Prince with only 0.1% of the total. AP may have all their eggs in one basket, but if you're Omega, you have 2 baskets. We're speaking, of course, about the Seamaster at 48% and the Speedmaster at 45%. These are very diverse model lines, and they make up a combined 93% of the brand's sales volume on the platform. Now, if you look at Patek Philippe, you'll see that their top 5 alternates between sport models and classical horology. This acts as a microcosm of Patek's current identity struggle between sport and elegance. The Nautilus family comes in first place at 34%. Their complications category comes in at 19%. Then we're back to sport with the Aquanaut at 17%. And then we round out the top 5 with the dressy Calatrava at 17% and the Grand Complications at 6%. Let's finish this segment with 2 more brands, Vacheron Constantin and Tudor, both with unequally weighted product lines. Now, if you've been following Vacheron, then you've noticed that the overseas is experiencing a rising tide on the secondary and gray markets. In 2023, the overseas accounts for 58% of Vacheron's market share on our site. The Historique and Patrimony collections come in second and third, but each with barely above 10% of that market share. For Tudor, we currently see a similar story. Yes, the Black Bay lineup is in first place, and by more than you might think. It's got a whopping 59% market share and towers over the Pelagos in second place, which only has 15%. So this begs the question, now that the popular 39mm Pelagos is starting to trade hands more, will it be able to close this gap, or is the Black Bay simply unstoppable? Next up, we analyzed the watch collecting trends of 1.3 million Chrono 24 users to see which brands people gravitate towards early in their collecting careers and which brands they work up to later on. Now, the line between entry level and expert level is not always as clear as you may expect. The study looks at people's first watch, second watch, third watch, all the way up to their 20th watch to see how likely people are to purchase a certain brand at a particular point in their journey. We're going to break this down into 3 categories today: brands you grow into, brands you grow out of, and brands you love for a lifetime. Let's start with the brands you grow out of. TAG Heuer experiences the biggest drop-off of any brand on the list. TAG starts off strong with approximately 6% representation as an enthusiast's first watch. But in this hobby, your first love is rarely your last love. By the time you buy your 5th watch, your likelihood of buying another TAG Heuer is cut in half, and there's only a 2% chance that you'll purchase your 10th watch from them. And it only gets worse from there. So it's safe to say that enthusiasts on Chrono 24 see TAG Heuer as a brand to start with and not a brand to end with. Tissot and Breitling have similar trajectories, decreasing dramatically with each watch purchase. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, certain brands take time to grow into in knowledge and in purchasing power. Only 2% of collectors begin with either Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet. After all, the median value of a Patek Philippe in this study is about 41,000 euros, and the median value of an AP is about 27,000 euros. So not the easiest brand to get into. But as tastes refine and bank accounts grow, we see a growing interest in these premium brands, with the ownership likelihood doubling for AP by watch number 10 and tripling for Patek by watch number 12. By the time a collector is ready for their 20th watch, must be nice, there's a 7.5% chance it will be a Patek Philippe. That's 3rd highest among all brands, following only Rolex and Omega. But which brand takes the most time to get into? We discussed Patek and Audemars, but it turns out that the final member of watchmaking's holy trinity experiences the largest relative surge from first watch to 20th watch. Vacheron Constantin makes up only 0.25% of first purchases within this data set. That number doubles by watch 10 and is up 500% by the time a collector reaches watch number 20. That said, Vacheron Constantin only reaches a total of 1.5%, further cementing its status as the forgotten member of the trilogy and furthering the notion that the nearly 250-year-old brand remains vastly underappreciated by the collector community. So far in this article, we've covered starter brands that collectors love and leave, as well as prestigious brands that take years or even decades to access. But there's a 3rd class left to discuss, ones that are universally loved from start to finish. One will be a surprise and one will not. The most collected brand among Chrono 24 users for their first watch, 5th watch, 10th watch, and even 20th watch is, of course, Rolex. It's no surprise that we crown a winner with the crown already on the dial. The brand averages a 34 to 38% purchasing likelihood across all collections of all sizes in the dataset. This can be attributed to a range of factors, including the brand's cultural cachet, their reputation for quality, their market performance, and their deep catalog of popular models. While the Rolex dynasty rolls on, there's a surprise winner hiding in the data. Casio is the first watch that a lot of people receive as a kid, and according to the data, those fond memories carry over consistently into adulthood. The extremely affordable brand maintains strong interest among collectors over the years, likely due to its sheer accessibility and the range of limited editions constantly emerging from the Japanese brand. So maybe it seems that we're not the only people making late night impulse buys after all. So session is over, and now we've got to find a new show to watch. As both the bumbling and bloodthirsty saga comes to a close, we're handing out superlatives for the best and worst watch moments of the show. Our categories include most expensive watch, best watch investment, worst watch investment, most tasteful collection, most quiet luxury collection, and most improved. Our first category is most expensive watch worn on the show. The most expensive watch choice also happens to belong to the person with the most to prove, the eldest boy. In season 4 of Succession, we see Kendall rocking the RM 6701. Only tasteful RM in my opinion. Fun fact, that's a real RM in the show, and the wardrobe department was very nervous to handle it. Richard Mille is a new money brand through and through, and Kenny Roy does love a hype watch. He also has a Patek Philippe Nautilus 5711 and a customized all-black Rolex Sea Dweller. Prices for the RM 67 start around $180,000 on the market. market. After all, the only thing better than a silver spoon is a titanium Richard Mille. The best investment category is a bit of a toss-up. On one hand, we have Daddy's favorite boy, Kendall Roy, with the Vacheron Constantin Harmony Mono Pusher chronograph, a 1 of 260 limited edition. Now there's no pricing for these on the VC website, but a limited edition from the Holy Trinity brand is a good contender for long-term value. On the other hand, we have sweet and silly cousin Greg, who acquired a Rolex Pepsi GMT Master 2. Retail price is around $11K and Chrono 24 market rates are about $22K, so he's doubled his money. Keep on Gregging it. For the worst investment, we have another matchup between Kendall and Greg. Kendall loves his hype watch, the 5711, the RM, the Murdered Out Sea Dweller, just to name a few. As you know, these have fallen sharply since their highs in spring of 2022. But the real winner, or we should say the real loser, is Greg, who paid $40,000 for a standard issue Steel Submariner. That's 4 times the retail price for the record. If you have HBO and access to social media, you've probably seen way too many articles about quiet luxury and how it's the new style trend emerging from succession mania. For this one, let's go with Roman Roy as the winner. Early in the show, he primarily sports a Rolex Datejust with a smooth bezel and oyster bracelet, the most subdued combination. Later on, we see him wearing an IWC, either the Mark 20 or the 36mm Pilot. Somehow the most immature member of the family has the most restrained taste in timepieces. The award for most tasteful collection could go to Logan Roy. He's not really interested in watches since he did give a Patek away right after receiving it as a gift. That's the gift that Tom gave him and he said, it's incredibly accurate.
Every time you look at it, it tells you exactly how rich you are.
Now, according to the costume lead for the show, Logan Roy only wears JLC, but it's tough to tell exactly which models. So with that said, we're gonna give Shiv the nod here for most tasteful collection. She's a woman in a male-dominated world, and her brand of choice is Cartier. Throughout the show, we see her in a steel Panthère and a yellow gold Panthère, as well as a rose gold Pasha. She also sneaks in a mother of pearl Zenith Defy later on. So nothing super rare or unexpected here, but when it comes to keeping it classy, Shiv is the one. Our last category here is most improved, and the clear winner is Tom. We see him in a Panerai Luminor in the first episode of the show. He then opts for a more subdued Cartier Santos, likely influenced by Shiv. But as the plot thickens and Tom steps out from under Shiv's shadow, we see him put on his big boy pants with a big boy watch. That's the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph, reference 26331ST. And no spoilers, but watches impact the way people see you, and this watch played a crucial role in Tom's larger strategy. You know what I mean. There you have it, a snapshot of the secondary watch market for May 2023. I'm Thomas Hendricks of Chrono 24. Thanks for watching Time is Money, because time only moves in one direction, but the market does not. We'll see you next time.